I wish that someone had sat me down and just told me those two things. Bounce back, learn from your mistakes while not self-destructing. But I have seen some pretty catastrophic breakups, and I'm not going to... Welcome back to another YouTube video. The main topic for this one, heartbreak. Something that we all have been through, we all experience at some point in life. And it stings, I'm not gonna lie. As you probably saw in the past couple videos, I talked a little bit, mentioned here and there, that I actually ended up breaking up with my girlfriend when I was about 4 weeks out from stepping on stage at my last bodybuilding show. And there were a lot of things that were going on that made that time especially turbulent. You know, the fact that there was a whole bunch of focus and time and energy going into the bodybuilding show, while at the same time I was doing my best to, maintain the relationship. And for those of you that have competed before, you'll know that it's very difficult to sometimes juggle a relationship and competing. I thought that I was doing a very, very good job, but we ended up splitting up, and it was, to say the least, a difficult part or a difficult time in my life. And ultimately, the reason why I wanted to make this video is just for anybody else out there, that is struggling with heartbreak. There are a lot of guys that fall into despair after things like this tend to happen to them. And ultimately, over the past 6 weeks, I've just really done the best I possibly can to stay strong on certain principles, to make myself as invincible to heartbreak as possible. And I'm going to talk about these things. I'm going to go into them a little bit, and hopefully I can provide you with some sort of value. Now, for those of you guys who haven't watched the channel before, my name is Brandon Clark. I'm an online fitness coach. That is my job. That's what I do for a living. You can make sure to check out the links in the description. You can get free shredding guides to achieving an awesome physique. You can also go to my website, brandonclarkfitness.com, and apply to work with me one-on-one. I'll coach you to your dream physique, help you build muscle, lose fat, all that type of stuff. And if you guys have been enjoying the content lately, make sure to drop a like down below as well as a comment. And maybe I'll talk a little bit more about the relationship side of things, but what my YouTube channel has basically become over the past couple years is sort of a diary for me. Because I will honestly come on here and talk about things that I never thought that I would talk about publicly, like trying to avoid watching porn, struggling with lust, struggling with a whole bunch of different things, things in high school that I never would have talked about. Now here I am on a public platform talking about them, with ultimately the goal of giving myself some reference of the things and the trials and tribulations that I've gone through and how they've changed me over time, but also just to help as many people out that watch this as possible, because ultimately I believe that, if you have good advice, if you learn certain things, if you're kicked in the nuts, spread the word to your fellow man. Help them out a little bit. Try to help them avoid the certain mistakes that you made in order to end up in that situation. Now, when it comes to heartbreak, if you really want to become resilient, if you want to be somebody who is not affected by heartbreak, someone that ultimately is able to bounce back, learn from your mistakes, while not self-destructing and ending up throwing yourself into a violent spiral that can absolutely destroy your entire life, here are some main things that you are going to want to implement. And you might think, well, Brandon, that's a little bit of an exaggeration. It's not. I have seen people go through heartbreaks where it has completely derailed their entire life. And there are a lot of problems that lead into, having a relationship like that. Hopefully you're not in a situation where your entire life revolves around your significant other. But I have seen some pretty catastrophic breakups, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you shouldn't cry and you shouldn't feel any emotion and that you should, keep those emotions pressed down as deep as possible and try to avoid them at all costs. That's not what I'm here to tell you. There is a certain element of emotional control that as a man, I think that you should develop as time goes on. But ultimately, I know that things can get very, very hard. If you need to cry, feel free to cry. If you need to process through some things, through a couple days of being, downtrodden and kind of depressed, that's okay. Process through things. You have a right to do that. But there are some very, very important things that you must adopt as far as your mindset goes if you ultimately want to remain resilient and continue to date, continue to love, continue to live your life without being absolutely destroyed by the terrible things that are going to come your way eventually in life. Every morning you wake up and you make a conscious decision whether or not you are going to be a victim in life or whether or not you are going to be the victor. Now, what does the victim do? The victim wakes up and thinks, oh my gosh, I can't believe all of this stuff is happening to me. This is so terrible. My life is awful. These terrible life events are kicking me nonstop. I'm already down on the ground and they're continuing to beat me. It's not even a fair fight anymore. That is what goes through the mind of the victim. And upon talking with somebody, I can very, very quickly tell whether or not they have adopted the mindset of the victim or the victor just simply by how they talk about the things that are going on in their life. For example, I deal with a lot of people on the fitness side of things that come to me and they say, I just have terrible genetics and I don't think I'll ever be able to achieve that type of physique. Can you hear the tonality? Can you hear how they talk about themselves, how demeaning they are of their own bodies? That is because they have the mindset of a victim. The victims have truly convinced themselves that everything that happens to them is completely out of their control. The victors are exactly the opposite. They have convinced themselves that they have control over everything in their life, even if that isn't completely true, because obviously there is an element of surprise when it comes to life. There is an element of chance. You cannot know what is going to happen in the future, but it is very important to maintain the mindset that you are still in control, because there are always things that you can do better. There are always things that you could have done better, looking back at relationships in hindsight, looking back on how you've done things in the past. There is always room for improvement. And that is what the victors focus on. The victors focus on what they can control, and they pay no heed to what they cannot control. And this is how you become bulletproof when it comes to a heartbreak. The victim thinks she broke up with me, she wronged me, she destroyed my life, she was manipulative, she was terrible, she did all of these awful things. What does the victor look at the situation like? Well, he looks at it and he says, probably shouldn't have done that in the relationship. I made these mistakes in the relationship that made her act out this way against me, and ultimately everything that happens is my fault. Of those two mindsets, which is going to empower you in life? It's the mindset of the victor. The mindset of taking every ounce of responsibility upon yourself so that you can actually focus on the things that you can control. I don't care how wronged you are. I don't care how much you think that your life sucks. There are always improvements that you can be making as a man to better your life, better your situation, whether it is physically, whether it is financially. As soon as you begin to go back and reframe your relationship and the things that have happened to you, your entire life changes for the better. Your bitterness goes away. You let go of all of this hatred that you're harboring against someone, and you are able to take responsibility on yourself to make actual incremental improvements. That right there is by far the best piece of advice that I can give anyone going through any sort of heartbreak. For those of you who aren't religious, this point, you're probably not gonna like it, but prayer is one of the best ways that you can help avoid becoming someone that is bitter, that is controlled by your emotions. Praying to God, asking Him, God, please help me, help this bitterness to go away, lay to rest these feelings of hatred. The truth is, no matter how hard you try, there are some things that you cannot overcome alone. There are certain emotions that are going to be very, very difficult to control on your own. And in those moments, ask God for help. He has the ability to give you all of the strength that you need to get through the hard times that you are going through. There are so many points in my life where I wish that someone had sat me down and just told me those two things. The improvements that you need to make when it comes to your mindset and how you are viewing your situation, because it's so easy. It's so easy to be the victim. And that there is no weakness in asking God for help and going to your Creator and developing a better relationship with Him. And the final thing that I wanted to recommend when it comes to making yourself invincible against heartbreak is help other people. Get outside of yourself, because when you go through something like a hard heartbreak, you tend to internalize. You shrink away from everybody else, isolate yourself, and you convince yourself that the problems that you're going through are the worst problems of all time. I love coaching people when it comes to fitness because I constantly have a look into other people's lives and what other people are going through. And actively, I can wake up every single morning and actively try to make a positive impact on people's lives. The people that I'm coaching, the people that follow me, I can try to inspire someone. I can try to teach someone something new. There are so many different things that you can do to help other people out that you probably don't even realize. So get outside of yourself, focus on other people, focus on business, focus on building something with helping other people at the foundation of it. I really, really hope that you guys found this video helpful. Hopefully it's helping somebody out there. You know, I'm not expecting this video to get a crap ton of views or anything. You know, this is pretty much just me ranting to the camera. I hope that you guys found it helpful in some aspect, but maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more as I continue to kind of process through things. But like I said, I hope you guys found this video helpful. Make sure to drop a like down below as well as a comment. And I will see you guys all in the next video.